Starting off at number 10 is the Old Washoe Club. What was once a high-class bar reserved for the wealthiest men in Virginia City, Nevada, is now one of the most haunted places in the state. You see, as the riches dwindled, so did the clientele that began to roam around, and soon enough, anyone with cash for a beer was welcome inside the saloon. And it didn't take long before the bar became a frequent hotspot visited by Johns looking for a cheap night of fun away from their wives. However, along with the new nightlife, the new patrons also brought lots of violence, with bar fights becoming a near nightly incident. The next thing you know, bar fights turned into fights with the working ladies. These women were being killed by the patrons if they wouldn't give them what they wanted. Today, the building is mostly used for commercial properties, but many ghosts have been reported haunting the once wealthy halls, especially the ghost of Lena. Legend has it that Lena was once one of the girls working in the bedrooms back in the day, and tragically she was killed by one of the Johns on the 3rd floor. But she's not the only ghost who roams the halls, as allegedly the man who killed Lena felt such guilt over what he did that he took his own life the very next day on the 2nd floor. To this day, his ghost is seen walking around looking for Lena and sometimes even crying out her name. Next up at number 9, the Clown Motel. There are a few things that rival my fear of dolls, but if there is one thing that comes close, it would probably be clowns. So a motel that's entire theme and brand is that it's filled head to toe with clowns actually sounds like my nightmare. I mean, how do people sleep in a room where creepy clown paintings and figurines stare at them in the dark? I will never understand. But to make matters even worse, it's not just filled with freaky and terrifying clowns. I mean, truly that would be enough for me, but this place doubles down as a haunted motel as well. Long before the clown-filled motel opened its doors, this corner of town was reserved for the local graveyard. Being the Wild West and all, between the mining incidents and just general dangerous lifestyles, in about 10 years the cemetery was filled to capacity with 300 corpses, and it seems the spirits of these lost souls like to roam around the nearby hotel, terrifying guests as if clowns weren't getting the job done already. Patrons of the motel today frequently report seeing strange occurrences around the motel, such as hearing strange voices or doors slamming shut seemingly out of nowhere. So unless you are a clown-loving ghost enthusiast with a glutton for punishment, then I would suggest looking for a different place to stay on your visit. Coming in at number 8, the Pioneer Saloon. Opened in 1913, the Pioneer Saloon is the oldest bar in southern Nevada, and oh boy does it have a history. In its heyday, the saloon was no stranger to a bar fight, and as a result there are quite a few bullet holes lining the walls. But that is not the worst of it. It's said American actor Clark Gable frequented this establishment and was here waiting for Carole Lombard the night that a search party went out looking for her after a nearby plane crash. But the most tragic story is that of the bartender, who's said to have taken his own life right before a full house of patrons. As a result, many have said that the Pioneer Saloon is home to a whole mess of spirits. Of course, most famously the bartender, but also an entity referred to as Ruby, and even the ghost of Carole Lombard herself. Over the years, many paranormal investigators have popped in hoping to snag a recording of a strange noise or catch an unusual sighting on video, and believe it or not, they all claim to have been successful. But it's not just the experts. Patrons of the bar too claim to see doors slam shut or hear gunshots at night, but nothing is as scary as the apparition of the lonely bartender, who's said to terrify even the most skeptical guests who visit. Coming in at number 7, Yellow Jacket Mine. Widely believed to be the most haunted place across Nevada, this terrifying mine got its claim to fame over 150 years ago. Back in 1869, during the early hours of the morning, a huge fire broke out inside the mine, spreading up to the 800-foot level. Completely unaware, the day crew began their workday descending into the mine, and soon burning timbers started collapsing around them, trapping them inside. Despite firefighters arriving on the scene, the water pressure wasn't strong enough to extinguish the fire, and so the blaze continued for the next 3 weeks. Tragically, 39 miners lost their lives inside, but the strange thing is that only 34 bodies were ever recovered. Many over the years have wondered where the remains of the missing miners have gone, but one thing is for sure, all the men's spirits have stayed behind to haunt any who step foot on the property. Today, while you can't enter the mine itself, those that visit the area have reported seeing blue and white orbs floating around the main entrance. But most frightening of all are the screams and cries that can be heard echoing from the tunnels below. Coming in at number 6, Zak Bagans' Haunted Museum. It may be a popular tourist attraction for Las Vegas visitors, but that doesn't mean it's not also a terrifyingly haunted museum. If you don't already know, Zak Bagans was once one of America's most famous TV ghost hunters and spent years collecting some of the most creepy, evil, and possessed trinkets this world has to offer. So what's an ex-ghost hunter to do with all his haunted memorabilia? Why, make a haunted museum, of course. If you dare visit the museum today, you'll find the items encased in glass and behind velvet ropes to keep you from touching them. But that doesn't stop the frightening spirits that haunt them from freaking out the patrons anyways. Inside the museum are 30 rooms, each filled with cursed items and riddled with haunted spirits, such as haunted dolls, a cursed rocking chair that is believed to be the inspiration behind the actual haunting in the movie The Conjuring, and the original die book box. The die book box, for those that are not aware, is believed to be the most haunted object on the planet. The die book originates from Jewish folklore and is an evil entity that will possess the living and never leave. And as the legend goes, you are never to open the die book box, otherwise the entity will escape and wreak havoc on anyone in its path. Coming in at number 5, the Hoover Dam. This popular tourist destination spanning the Colorado River between Arizona and Nevada is revered as a spectacular feat of engineering. The construction on this behemoth began back in 1931 and it took 5 years to complete. But make no mistake, the history of this dam is not a squeaky clean slate. In fact, it's said that a whopping 112 people died during its construction, and that each and every one of them haunts the dam to this day. And if that wasn't dark enough, rumor has it that some of the workers who fell to their deaths were actually permanently encased in the dam's concrete. While the concrete may encase their physical bodies, their spirits are said to roam the grounds, terrifying anyone who they come into contact with. Many believe the spirits are angry to have lost their lives to the project and are there to take revenge on those who reap the benefits they never got to. Visitors and staff alike have reported cold spots, flickering electricity, equipment malfunctions, and finding missing items turn up in completely inexplicable places as soon as they are on the property. So just be careful if you ever decide to stop on by, you never know what could happen. Next up at number 4, the Overland Hotel and Saloon. Back in the day, the county of Pioche was a near lawless pit filled with danger and bloodshed. Over the years, it's said 72 souls were laid to rest across the county, and it's believed they all remain haunting the grounds to this day. Nicknamed Nevada's liveliest ghost town, Pioche might have a tamer facade during the day, but at night it's just as wild as it was back in the day. But the most terrifying spot of them all is said to be the Overland Hotel and Saloon. Although the Overland that stands today was rebuilt after a tragic fire in 1948, the spirits that haunt the grounds were not deterred. In fact, some say they even came back with a vengeance. So much so that a few years back, a crew for the TV show Ghost Adventures decided to try their hand and check out the rumors for themselves, and as they tell it, they recorded some of the most successful interactions with spirits at this hotel than anywhere else to date. To be clear, successful for a paranormal investigator pretty much translates to a thing of nightmares for anyone else. To top it off, guests continuously report witnessing shadowy figures lurking in the corners and slamming doors, and some guests even say they've been physically shaken by spirits until they awake. In fact, this place is so haunted that staff say you need to tell them if you want to avoid ghosts, as there are only a few select rooms that the spirits tend to stay away from. That being said, you are never truly safe from their presence. Coming in at number 3, the Silver Queen Hotel. Built back in 1876, the Silver Queen is just about the oldest hotel in the state, and not much has changed since the days it opened its doors. Beautifully restored to maintain its 19th century authenticity, it's not just the brass hardware that has stayed since the early days, but some of the patrons too. The most famous of which is the ghost of Rosie, believed to be the spirit of a woman of the night who was a frequent and favorite patron of the Silver Queen Hotel in its heyday, but who tragically took her own life in the very hotel she worked in. As the story goes, a few of her clients became violent towards her, and Rosie, depressed and seeing no way out of this life, decided to end it herself in her bathtub of room 11. To this day, it's said room 11 is haunted by her ghost, and those that have stayed there say they routinely hear rattling doorknobs, phantom footsteps, and disembodied voices echo throughout. But she isn't alone. Other frightening ghosts have also made their appearance in the wedding chapel's night cameras, and visitors swear to hear footsteps that sound like clacking along a wooden floor, despite that the hallways are carpeted. I mean, it's just creepy from top to bottom. Next up in our number 2 spot, the Goldfield Hotel. Although it now stands abandoned and boarded up, back in 1908 it was one of the hottest hotels in town, and it certainly has a spicy legend. As the story goes, back in the day there was a young woman named Elizabeth who caught the eye of owner George Wingfield. George became quite smitten with the lady and frequently swung by her room for a nighttime visit. However, Elizabeth soon fell pregnant, and George, concerned for his reputation and business, lured her into room 109 at the hotel under false pretenses. Once inside, he chained Elizabeth to the radiator and forced her to stay in the room alone until she gave birth. But tragically, Elizabeth died in the room, and so George took it upon himself to deal with her. Situation, allegedly throwing it down a nearby mine shaft. Those who pass by the old hotel today say they can hear the sound of chains clanking against the radiator, and that Elizabeth can be seen walking around room 109 wearing a long white dress and weeping. Some even say they've heard her cries echo in the streets. But it's not just the weeping Elizabeth that haunts these evil halls, but the spirit of a former employee who took their life, as well as George himself. It's believed George remains there, tormenting the poor Elizabeth even in her death, making this place more and more evil as the hours go by. And last up in our number 1 spot is Circus Circus. Since its opening in 1968, Circus Circus has become one of the most famous hotel and casinos in Las Vegas. Over the years, it has of course been the meeting place of countless guests, but it has also been the location of a multitude of crimes, including multiple brutal killings. Most notorious is the tragic case of a mother and son who were found dead in room 123 in what appeared to be a brutal case of the mother taking his life and then her own. No one knows what led the mother to do such a thing, but it's said the pair frequently wander the hotel, and at night the loud screams are often heard echoing throughout the hall. Most terrifying though are the reports of people who have stayed in the room, as apparently the words "Help me" have appeared on numerous occasions scrawled across the bathroom mirror. But it wasn't just brutal killings among family members that went down in these hallowed halls. Believe it or not, there was also apparently a deep affiliation with the American mobster Anthony John Spilotro, who was put in charge of the gift shop to cover for his illegal business dealings. As you can imagine, with mobsters frequenting the establishment, there was quite a lot of bloodshed going on in the shadows, and so many of the other ghosts are suspected to have been the victims of Spilotro and his men. However, some even believe Spilotro himself, who was brutally killed by his employer, haunts the halls hoping to get revenge on the very people who put him in the grave all those years ago.
Number 10. Zak Bagans' Haunted Museum. I figured I'd get this one out of the way off of the top. I've talked about this a few times on my home channel, Top 5 Scary, and it's worth shouting out over here as well. Zak Bagans is the famed paranormal investigator from Ghost Adventures, and he spent most of his adult life collecting and hunting things beyond the veil, and he's put it all under one roof for your pleasure. The building itself is said to be haunted, and to Vegas residents, stories go that it used to be home in the late 70s to all kinds of satanic and dark rituals. Since then, it's been rumored to be haunted, no doubt why Bagans wanted to open it there. Bagans' collection boasts some truly impressive relics like the Dybbuk box, thought to be one of the most cursed objects in the entire world. Visitors to the museum report all sorts of unease, seeing strange shadows and figures while they navigate the halls. The museum offers tours for fledgling ghost hunters, and even offers nighttime tours where you have a free roam of the facility, with nary but a flashlight to guide you if you're feeling brave. And if you're feeling truly brave, keep clicking through on Most Amazing and watch all of the fantastic top 10 scary content we've got. And if you got a little room left over, you should check out Top 5 Scary. I hear some of the hosts there are just lovely. Number 9. La Plaza Mansion. The La Plaza Mansion is a now abandoned, allegedly haunted mansion in Las Vegas that was once home to a notorious mobster known as Tony the Ant Spilotra. Over the years, there has been a score of rumors and hearsay out of the Plaza Mansion as to what kind of violence has happened inside those walls and inside the secret tunnels that are built underneath it, as well as the secret rooms around. It makes a good sense that a place where mobsters would meet and greet probably saw its fair share of dark dealings. Various inhabitants over the years have complained of spirits on multiple occasions. One particular vivid story details someone being choked after a glass of wine exploded mysteriously. As well, female guests have reported hearing hooting and hollering while showering at the Plaza Mansion. Pervert ghosts. Yeah, learn something every day. The mansion is closed, but it recently went up for sale again, but it's been struggling to find a buyer. I guess no one really wants to buy a home where you know a ghost is going to be watching you use the loofah. Number 8. The Flamingo Resort. The Flamingo was the prized property and hotel of Bugsy Siegel, the legendary New York mobster who was the undisputed first king of Las Vegas, as he was influential and key to the development of the Las Vegas Strip, becoming the beloved den of sin that we know today. Unfortunately for Bugsy, he didn't get to enjoy his time with his precious flamingo very long, as he was assassinated by a rifle in his own home 6 months after its grand opening. Well, if you believe the rumors, maybe Bugsy keeps finding his way back to his favorite spot, as there are reports of all sorts of sightings of that checkered coat. Fun little aside, little trivia for some of the gamers out there, the villain of Fallout New Vegas, Benny, was directly based on Bugsy, down to the trademark jacket. Anyway, guests of the Flamingo Hotel have reported hearing strange whisperings at night during their rooms, and claim that spectral apparitions have been seen in the presidential suite, Bugsy's old personal room in the hotel. There have been reports of seeing the notorious criminal in the garden as well as the chapel. Perhaps he's still got unfinished hotel business to take care of, or maybe he just loves that spot so much he can't move. Number 7. Pioneer Saloon. The Pioneer Saloon is a little bit outside the strip proper in the town of Goodsprings, and I hate to bring it up again so soon, but if you're a gamer with a keen eye and you're wondering why you recognize this saloon, yep, that is where the tutorial from Fallout New Vegas happens, and it is 100% of why I can't stop banging on about it in this video. But besides being one of the places that Courier 6 first ever stepped foot and began their journey, it's also one of Vegas's most haunted attractions. The Pioneer Saloon is the oldest bar operating in Nevada, and as such, one of the most haunted for years and years of stories. It's said that the wife of Clark Gable, Carol Lombard, can be seen wandering around the saloon at night looking for her husband to console him, but she's not the only one. There's rumors of a spirit of a kindly old prospector who sits at the back of the bar in the wee hours just to make sure ain't nobody causing no trouble. Easy Pete? Lastly, there's a spirit of an old western bar brawler by the name of Paul Koski, who was sent 6 feet under when he was caught cheating at a hand of cards. The coroner's report for him is posted on the wall. They say near the dead of night, you can see a figure of an old gunslinger bleeding out of his side, watching the bar. Number 6. The Mob Museum. Hey, there ain't nothing to see here. Move along at this one. There's nothing to see at point number 6. Well, actually there is. Quite a lot. The Mob Museum is a showcase to the people that made Las Vegas what it is today. Gangsters, crooks, criminals, and all. The museum serves as a monument to all things crooked and corrupt, and is built in the old Las Vegas courthouse, where several of the people who are featured in the museum received the sentence that would change their lives, so to speak. As well, one of the most prominent features of the museum is a swath of the brick wall from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, still riddled with bullet holes from the infamous Bloody Cloud. flash. Employees who work at the Mob Museum claim that in their time, it's not uncommon to see shadowy figures wandering through at night, quite possibly the lost souls of old mobsters who never got a peaceful rest, probably due to, being perforated by bullets. Number 5. The Luxor Resort. The Luxor Resort has been host to paranormal rumors pretty much since it was constructed. Maybe it's because it was built to look like an ancient Egyptian tomb. Maybe it's the gigantic black pyramid with a giant light atop its peak that looks like it's a dark temple that's attracting all of the malevolent energy in the world inside the Luxor. Could be that. An unknown number of construction workers died during its construction, and shortly after its opening, 2 guests jumped from the balconies. You should know too as well. The Luxor is also home to a massive collection of artifacts recovered from the wreck of the Titanic, all the way up to a giant piece of the bulkhead complete with a piece of the window. You gotta imagine if there wasn't already enough evil energy inside that building, bringing in a bunch of relics from the Titanic has gotta push it overboard. No pun intended, wow. Employees have reported that deceased passengers from the Titanic came with their relics, appearing, disappearing, and making their presence known. Some rooms of the resort are even modeled directly after rooms in the Titanic, where people report increased spiritual activity. Maybe they feel at home. Number 4. Fox Ridge Park. It's not all glitz and grime all the time in Las Vegas. There still has to be a community, The people have to live somewhere. Can't all just be wall-to-wall casinos. There has to be room for grocery stores and places for people to play. Perhaps once you've had your fill of shooting craps, you can take a walk down to Fox Ridge Park, a small little playground in Henderson, the city that neighbors Las Vegas. The story goes that a long time past, a boy was run over by the park, and his soul has been bound to it ever since. People report seeing the swing set moving when no one's around or no wind could be blowing it, and even outright saying that they see spectral apparitions. He's apparently very angry, however, and I never quite got over his condition, and it's been said that he takes the form of a demonic entity or some monstrous specter to would-be paranormal investigators who go and disturb him. So it might be best to leave this one to the pros and check out some of the other stuff on the list. Tell Zach Baggins about this one. Number 3. Rhyolite Ghost Town. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but we'll go through it anyway. After you've made a day seeing the sights of Las Vegas, consider taking a road trip outside of the strip to Rhyolite, an abandoned ghost town just outside. It used to be a prospering mining community during the gold rush, but was abandoned altogether in the panic of 1907. It still stands now as a monument to an America long gone, a town frozen in amber, perfectly preserved. Even just looking at it, pictures of it is kind of giving me the willies, You look at it and it feels like things should be moving and bustling, but instead it's just a graveyard. You can wander around the remnants of the old town, seeing the desolate ruins of a bank and a jail. Because of its eerie, abandoned nature, it's a very popular spot for paranormal enthusiasts to scout out to try and see if maybe, just maybe, they can catch a bona fide ghostly gunslinger or vanquished varmint still wandering around on this mortal coil. Number 2. Hoover Dam. Hoover Dam? What? Really? Well, yeah, you would be surprised how many rumors and ghost stories I found about Hoover Dam while researching for this video. So many of them, they ought to call it the Hoover Dam. Thank you folks, thank you. I'll be here all week. Not really, just this video, but you can catch me on Top 5 Scary if you liked me. In the years since the impressive dam's construction, it's seen its fair share of fatal jumpers who chose the iconic landmark as their last destination. As well, over 100 workers were fatally injured in the construction of the dam between 1931 and 1936. Some visitors to the dam report hearing dripping water and what sounds like malfunctioning equipment despite everything working in order. As well, some of the employees who work at the dam complain of tools missing or things malfunctioning, not working properly during the lower levels. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. When Hoover Dam began to rise, so did the waters of Lake Mead. The town of St. Thomas had to be evacuated. After the water levels of Lake Mead had calmed, and after 70 years of the water receding, the ghost town of St. Thomas was officially unearthed. While the town was evacuated under government order, there's no proof one way or the other to say that everyone did. So it's entirely possible that some residents of St. Thomas could have been trapped there, and their souls now doomed to the dam forever, alongside jumpers and poor workers, making it a real hot spot for paranormal activity. Luckily, I have to imagine a dam that big's gotta be keeping some of it in, right? And finally, the #1 most haunted spot in Vegas is Bally's Las Vegas Resort. In 1980, a raging fire scorched the tower of the original MGM Grand Resort. It was an absolutely dreadful disaster that claimed the lives of 85 people and badly injured many, many more. The building was restored and sold and renamed to Bally's in 1985. But given the building's treacherous backstory, it's no surprise how many guests complain about paranormal experiences there. Guests who stay in the the original refurbished tower complain of overwhelming smell of smoke or the sounds of people screaming throughout the night. Others notice that on higher floors, the furniture will move unexpectedly, or windows have been shut or even locked that can be found open. It's thought that these are the spirits of those on the higher floors desperate to escape, not knowing they never will. There's a famous ghost in Bali's residents claim to see of an old woman who sits at a slot machine on the casino floor, blankly pulling the lever and idly playing calmly until she bursts into flames without making a noise and then vanishing in the blink of an eye. She only appears for seconds at a time, but she's been purportedly seen many times. Ugh.
Starting us off at number 10, we have the U-2 spy planes. I know, we just want to get to the alien stuff, but in order to get there, we need to go through the weird human stuff first. So, Area 51 is commonly a place of suspicion, with many thinking that there is proof of aliens and alien tech that lives there. But, once the top secret area was finally recognized in 2013, it was released to the public that it is actually a top secret US Air Force base, where they test tons of new and not yet released aircrafts. One of those aircrafts being the U-2 spy plane. The U-2 spy plane was first created to keep an eye on the Soviet Union, as the US was worried about a nuclear threat. This plane is known to fly higher than 70,000 feet with a top speed of 805 miles per hour. The idea was that if this plane could soar so high up and at top speeds, it would be less noticeable than other spy planes at the time. It also didn't need to refuel until after 3,000 miles or so. Flight tests began at Area 51 on August 1st, 1955, after a short 8 months of construction. The project was known as Project Aquatone. Sounds like a skin treatment. The defense contractor Lockheed Martin built the first plane on a $22 million budget, which is about $207 million today. Even though this plane was crazy expensive, one was actually shot down over Soviet airspace in 1960. Both the pilot and the planes were retrieved, but forced the US to admit that they were spying. So what happened next? Well, the SR-71 Blackbird. That's right, coming in at our number 9 spot, we have the SR-71 Blackbird, the plane that was to make up for the US Air Force's previous failure. Pressure was on the Lockheed Martin team after the U-2 was shot down. They were to create an entire new plane that could not be shot down and fully operational in 20 months. In case you don't know this, that is an extremely difficult task. The Blackbird finally began testing on December 22nd, 1964, and it featured tons of new tech. Aircraft designer Kelly Johnson said everything had to be invented. Everything. It was known to many as the perfect spy plane. It could fly up to 80,000 feet high and also had a top speed of 2,100 miles per hour. That's a frickin' huge jump from the U-2. Many at the time believed that the remains of the Roswell crash in 1947 were actually being kept at Area 51, and don't worry, settle down, I'll get there. But because this was during the Cold War, the CIA actually encouraged the myth that aliens were flying around Area 51 so that the Soviets wouldn't know about their newest weaponized toy. But of course, that wasn't the last of their super cool high-tech toys. At number 8, we have the A-12 Oxcart. This was another plane that was in development at the same time as the Blackbird and was in the running to be the new recon spy plane, but the Blackbird won on that one. The other difference was that the A-12 Oxcart had a crew of 1 and it was operated by the CIA and not the US Air Force, who could fit a crew of 2 in the Blackbird. Later testing proved that the CIA Air Force didn't want to go through the development of this aircraft, so the A-12 slowly morphed into the Blackbird, and even the later plane known as the Interceptor YF-12. The Oxcart, however, was smaller than the Blackbird and faster and could reach higher altitudes, but it was still not the winner in this scenario. It could reach heights of up to 90,000 feet and a top speed of 2,208 miles per hour. These craft only operated from 1967 to 68, which is no wonder why most people forget about this one. Or maybe we were forced to forget about it. It's a conspiracy, man. At number 7, we have the M21 and D21 tag board. Originally known as the Q-12, this craft was originally intended to be expendable. The name was later changed to D21 tag board because it was carried on the back of the A-12 launch vehicle designated at M21. M stood for mother and D stood for daughter. Then the project was given the name tag board. The D21A was built with titanium and various radar absorbing plastic composites and looked like a stovepipe with a cone in its inlet. The D21 could fly up to speeds of 1,700 miles per hour at an altitude of 95,000 feet. It also had a 3,450 mile range before it needed to refuel. That's pretty impressive. The M21 was a 2-seat version of the A-12, but unfortunately these tag team drone planes had a bit of an accident. During a flight on July 30th, 1966, a D-21 collided with an M21 on release, destroying both crafts. Both crewmen were able to be ejected in time, falling to the sea, but one of them tragically drowned after his pressure suit leaked. The D-21 drone was then later replaced by the KH-11 keyhole reconnaissance satellite. At number 6, we have everyone's favorite new toy, drones! Okay, I don't actually mean the US Air Force is testing all those tiny little remote-controlled toys that we all buy online, but it is believed that the new hangar being built in the same place where the A-12 Oxcart was tested is actually home to a fleet of new unmanned drones that are just waiting to be taken for a test fly. Test drive? You know, it doesn't matter, you get the point. A quartet of modern hangars divided into 2 separate buildings measuring 90 feet wide are known to be the hangars number 20 to 23 and have been seen going through some pretty major upgrades. Upgrades for what? Probably these drones. These drones are known more professionally as unmanned combat air vehicles, UCAVs for short. Many theorize that the extension and building of this new hangar in the southern ramp area of the base will house large numbers of these craft, keeping them secret and covered up from overhead spies, inclement weather, and of course our friends above us, the aliens. Coming in at our halfway point at number 5, we have trespassing humans. This one should be an obvious one, because I'm sure we all remember the Storm Area 51, they can't stop all of us raid back in September of 2019, which definitely didn't go as planned. This was a Facebook event that over 2 million people responded to going, as well as 1.5 million responded with interested. Obviously, because of all the alien rumors, myths, and legends, just about every single day tourists can be seen trying to get as close as they possibly can to the top secret base. Although the closest people can get is to the gates, which are still miles away from the actual base. Clearly, at least 2 million people thought that if they all band together, then they could storm past the gate, run a few miles, and reach the ultimate destination of Area 51. Emphasis on thought, because on the actual day of the event, only about 150 people showed up and none of them got in. Shocker. I remember the day I came across this event and I laughed my butt off because this was before it made international headlines and I thought it was pretty cool, and I think I even actually responded as going because I thought it was just so freaking funny. But anyway, I never had any real intentions of going because of our number 4 spot. That's right, coming in at number 4 we have camo dudes. All over and around Area 51 you can see camo dudes guarding the gates, viewpoints, and other mildly unprotected entrance and vantage points. These scary and intimidating camo dudes ride around in pure white jeeps, making their presence known to any and all who dare to get close to the top secret base. At the 2 entrances of Area 51, huge and important signs can be seen stating that there is absolutely no trespassing, and if you have the inkling to do so, let it be known that these camo dudes have clearance to use lethal force. That's right, they will shoot at you, and what's the point in finding the answer to Are We Alone in the Universe if you die immediately right after? Or even dying without getting the answer, that's even worse. These camo dudes have also been known to have the ability to listen in on whoever is near the gates, and when tourists ask themselves, hey, I wonder if they will wave to us, they immediately give back a nice little wave, confirming that you are being watched and listened to. So, tread carefully. Starting us off in our top 3 spot at number 3, we have UFOs. That's right, no duh. Due to all the top secret flight testing that they do in and around the top secret base, many have found secret little vantage points to camp out and see if they spy anything. With some luck, many have reported seeing UFOs and strange lights above the airbase at night, and many don't believe them to be human technology. Not only have there been reports of strange lights and UFOs above the base, but even in the state of Nevada, there have been countless eyewitnesses to strange things and objects in the sky. I mean, that only makes sense, as Nevada is home to the extraterrestrial highway, which of course was created due to all the alien lore surrounding the area. But many bars, restaurants, cafes, gift shops, all of those things all go along with the theme and also believe for themselves that aliens are indeed real and are indeed here. At number 2, we have spacecrafts. Actual alien spacecrafts. Oh my god! Back in 1942 in Roswell, New Mexico, a devastating crash apparently took place on the night of July 8th. The Roswell Army Airfield reported that they recovered a flying disc from the scene, only to retract their statements soon after, reporting that it was actually just a crashed weather balloon. Yeah, right. Since this incident, many have gone on record saying that the famous picture of Jesse A. Marcel posing with the weather balloon debris was indeed faked. That was what they were asked to report on after the top secret government officials confiscated the actual crash debris and were never seen of again. It is now popular belief that not only was the craft confiscated and brought into a top secret high government hands, there was also 3 human-shaped bodies. Notice the wording. Human-shaped, but not human. Due to all of its top secret mythos, many believe that once Area 51 was built in 1955, that's where all of the evidence from Roswell, New Mexico now rested. Of course, there's no way to prove it unless we get in there, and by the way, I also recently learned that there are even secrets and truths kept from the freaking president. So don't count on getting close to any of that info anytime soon. But wait, back up. Dewey, did you say 3 human-shaped bodies were recovered? Does that mean... Yup. Finally coming in at our number 1 spot, and the most shocking and obvious thing on our list is actual aliens! Back in 1995, footage of an alien autopsy supposedly at Area 51 was released thanks to London-based video entrepreneur Ray Santilli. This footage caused an international sensation and was shown on television networks all over the world. Santilli later in 2006 admitted that the film was a reconstruction, which, no duh. But do we really think the government and the Men in Black would really let the news channels all around the world show an alien autopsy? I don't think so. But that being said, Santilli said the footage was reconstructed, as in that there is actual footage of this autopsy, and whoever created this widely released tape was actually recreating an event that actually happened. To the best of my knowledge, there is no hard proof that this footage exists out there, but it wouldn't matter anyway, because most of it is supposedly lost. All I know is that 3 human-shaped bodies were recovered from Roswell, and that can mean a lot of things. Whether they're at Area 51 or not, I think they're here. Starting us off at our top 10 spot is hazardous working conditions. Back in the 1990s, a lawyer from George Washington University named Jonathan Turley was contacted by a group of people who claimed to work at Area 51. They were in need of Turley's lawyer skills because they believed they were exposed to hazardous materials while working in the top secret base. In an article in the Los Angeles Times, Turley said that the workers described how the government had placed discarded equipment and hazardous waste in open trenches the length of football fields, then doused them with jet fuel and set them on fire. The highly toxic smoke blowing through the desert base was known as London fog by workers. Many came down with classic skin and respiratory illnesses associated with exposure to burning hazardous waste. A chief aim of the lawsuits was to discover exactly what the workers had been exposed to so that they could get appropriate medical care. Apparently, Turley proved that the government had acted in violation of federal law, but the government, of course, refused to declassify any information about what they were burning in these trenches, which is and was horrible because without knowing what exact substance gave all these workers their reactions, it made the doctors' jobs just that much harder in knowing how to treat the workers' illnesses. The burning at Area 51 was most likely a federal crime, but once again these guys got off scot-free because they could hide behind more and more secrecy. As Dana Carvey's church lady would say, well, isn't that special? At number 9, we have a plane pool. Not an airplane swimming pool, but you know how some people carpool to work? Well, it is believed that some of the workers at Area 51 actually plane pool to work. According to the source USA Today, Area 51 employees board an unmarked craft at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas and are then flown to an undisclosed location, aka Area 51. What is known though is they fly somewhere with the airline known as Janet, which some believe stands for just another non-existent terminal. Very clever. The unmarked craft is reportedly a Boeing 737-600s and its official destination is unknown. But back in 2018, Janet was reportedly hiring a new flight attendant. The job posting wrote that applicants must be level-headed and clear-thinking while handling unusual incidences and situations. But that's it. That sounds really fishy and kind of intimidating, but if any of you are watching our flight attendants, please go get a job at Janet and then please hit me up. At number 8, we have a mailbox. Okay, so this one isn't exactly inside Area 51, but it's close enough. About 12 miles away from Area 51 is a pair of black mailboxes. According to Bob Lazar, a man who recently made claims he worked at Area 51, but with no real proof, he says that if you want to see some crazy scheduled UFO flight tests, one of the best places to watch them is from these set of mailboxes. Originally it was just a single black mailbox owned by a man named Steve Medlin, but many tourists and alien fans all around the world would come and tamper with his mail as well as destroy the mailbox. I'm guessing to see if any of the mail going to this supposed real person named Steve was actually real or top secret alien info. So actual non-alien Earth-born Steve Medlin put up another mailbox beside it with the name Alien on it, so anyone hoping to send messages to aliens or get a reply can do their business, all the while Steve can get his bills and birthday cards without any trouble. Poor Steve. At number 7, we have a possible film set? That's right, one of the many conspiracy theories surrounding Area 51 is the theory that the original moon landing footage never actually took place on the moon. Many believe it was actually taken at Area 51 with brainwashed astronauts who then returned to normal society, believing that they flew all the way to the moon and landed placing the American flag into the gray, dusty cheese surface. One of those believers being Bill Kaysing, author of We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle. Oof. lengthy and original title. He not only believes this theory, but he also believes that NASA used lunar meteorites found in Antarctica as stand-ins for moon rocks. Yeah, I don't know about this one, guys, because I think it's pretty obvious that we did go to the moon, and in the off chance we didn't back in 1969, we definitely have now, okay? At number 6, buckle up and let's go off-roading because we have white trucks. That's right, you remember those crazy intimidating camo dudes I talked about in the first video? Well, for years and years they have been seen roaming in and around the base in white unmarked vehicles. They have been seen in white Jeep Cherokees, Chevrolet Silverados, Ford F-150s, but since 2011 have mostly been driving around in the crazy fun Ford Raptor, which makes total sense. The Ford Raptor is meant for driving on off-road terrain. Well, this is a pretty get up and go kind of truck. It's perfect for Area 51 camo dudes as the land is mostly flat, dirt terrain that if they need to speed off to scare away any trespassers or aliens, they can just hop in their Ford Raptor and give her. As we say here in Canada, they can take her for a rip. I think Ford needs to get on that ad right away. The Ford Raptor, taking Area 51 camo dudes for a rip since 2011. Coming in at number 5 at our halfway point, we have a giant robot. Well, says this one guy. A man named Scott of UFOs Daily has a video online where he inspects Area 51 using Google Earth. He goes in for an extreme close-up of an area of land that is filled with random unidentifiable things on the ground and claims it to be new technology, whatever the hell that means. He zooms in even more and finds what seems to be a giant human-shaped silhouette on the ground. He claims it to be a giant robot. I honestly cannot take this one seriously, guys, because it is such a huge assumption, and sure, whatever lying on the ground does indeed have the shape of a human body, but come on, a giant robot? Maybe it's just like a giant men's washroom sign for overhead pilots or aliens, or even just a clutter of random crap made into a human shape to troll some alien believer into thinking it's something more than what it is. Yeah, I think it worked. Either way, there is or was a pile of something in the shape of a human at Area 51. That is confirmed, but I don't think it's no longer there because I did just check Google Earth before doing this video and I don't see nothing, so whatever. At number 4, we have big mouths. Many former employees at Area 51 are now starting to go against their promise of swearing to absolute secrecy. Everyone, I'm sure, is well aware of Bob Lazar. If you're not, then an easy Google search and watch of a documentary on Netflix will surely bring you up to speed. Go do that right now. Hey, you back? Good. But other than Lazar, other supposed former employees of the top secret bases are opening up their big mouths and giving away top secret information. One of them being supposed Area 51 veteran James Nose. Nose recalls handling multiple mishaps that were accidentally exposed to the public, such as a crash of a top secret craft that was witnessed by a police officer and a family on vacation. The family apparently took photos and Mr. Nose was in charge of confiscating the photos and telling the family to shut up or else. Nose later said that there was no official documentation stating that he worked at the top secret base and that his salary was paid in cash. An under the table government paying job? Say what? He also said he never saw any alien activity at the site. At the site. Yeah. Okay, whatever you say, Jimbo. At number 3, we have underground operations. That's right, if you look at Area 51 on Google Earth, like I did, or from above, you may wonder where on earth do they hide all of the top secret alien tech and new and never used military equipment? Answer? Probably underground. I'm sure many of us have seen Independence Day and other alien invasion movies, but just like many movies in pop culture, many suspect that most of the testing and actual tech is indeed stored beneath the ground. The deeper you go, the more top secret the project and tech is. One of the conspiracists named John Lear, heir to the Learjet fortune, spun bizarre stories that aliens were being kept underground in camps and being fed mutilated cattle and smaller humans. Gross! There's also no exact proof of any of this, but honestly, Area 51 spans over a huge amount of desert, and I think if they ever wanted to start a huge underground alien colony, it'd be pretty easy. Coming in at number 2, we have Tic Tacs. No, not the little candies that sometimes freshen your breath unless they're just the tasty orange ones. I'm talking about alien crafts that are in the shape of Tic Tacs. In a podcast episode on the Joe Rogan Experience with alien lover Jeremy Corbell and supposed former Area 51 employee Bob Lazar, Lazar opened up about the recent Tic Tac footage that leaked from the 2004 footage and stated that this specific craft actually looked and operated similarly to the craft that he spotted while working at Area 51. Many believe Lazar's story, but with more and more slight details no longer matching up, some would say his story is losing its validity. But one thing is for certain, there are Tic Tac shaped UFOs out there, and if we do indeed have any of those craft in our possession on Earth, I bet you it's at Area 51. And Finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, and definitely the weirdest one of them all, we have alien architects. Our good friend John Lear, along with his theory that aliens are being hidden and fed underground at Area 51, also quite strongly believes that not only are aliens being housed and fed at the top secret base, they're also helping build the top secret base. To be quite specific, he believes it's the aliens we know as the Greys that are helping assist in the building construction. If this is true, then I bet you the underground buildings and structures are quite advanced. I think we should bring the Greys above ground and let me hire them to do some of the renovations on my apartment, because it could use an upgrade. Because the alien god only knows that I can't do it by myself. While this one is yet again another assumption, it is pretty cool. This isn't the first time I've heard something like this. A few years back, I stumbled into a dinner party where a former government worker divulged his knowledge on aliens, specifically the reptilians, and I learned there that they are the ones who made the iPhone. Pretty cool. And also reptilians are disguised as humans. They're usually white men with blonde, brunette, black, or orange hair. So that narrows it down. Either way, it sounds like we may have had quite the helping hand from our friends above, or so we think.
And we're starting off this list with the Potawatomi County Jail located in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It was built in 1885 and is known as the squirrel cage, or at least it used to be, due to its unique design. Instead of traditional cells, the jail featured a rotating circular cage. The design was kind of revolutionary for the time. It was intended to increase security and allow for better surveillance of the inmates, but was ultimately discontinued due to its impracticalities. Some prisoners were also severely harmed in the rotating contraption. So basically there was these cylindrical cages that prisoners' cells were located in. They each had one opening, and the jailer turned this crank and the cell would rotate to either face the opening or the enclosed part of the cage. It was pretty dangerous, and a lot of prisoners lost limbs. So yeah, not a place you would have wanted to end up in. Despite being decommissioned in 1969, many people believe that this county jail is haunted. The former jail was also featured in Ghost Adventures, so if you want to learn more about it, you can check that episode out. At number 9, we have the Orleans Parish Prison. Orleans Parish Prison, located in New Orleans, Louisiana, is regarded as one of the worst prisons in the United States and was one of the most heavily impacted facilities during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. The prison has a violent reputation and has been scrutinized for being understaffed, filthy. Probably the most infamous incident at the prison, though, took place during Hurricane Katrina. Roughly 650 prisoners were left behind in the prison after the hurricane hit, and the conditions inside quickly deteriorated. Of course, as the floodwaters rose and power was lost, many inmates were left without food, water, basic necessities, and some were forced to drink from toilets in order to survive. It's believed that over 500 prisoners lost their lives. The State Correctional Institution, also known as Western Penitentiary in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This former prison has been left abandoned since 2017 and is known for a particularly dark incident that took place in 1987. A fire broke out in one of the prison's cell blocks, causing significant damage and endangering the lives of inmates and staff. That's what fire does. It's dangerous. It was later revealed, though, that the fire had been deliberately started by a group of guards in response to a protest by inmates. The incident happened when a group of inmates began protesting poor conditions and mistreatment at the facility, including overcrowding and limited access to basic necessities. In response, a group of guards reportedly entered the cell block and set fire to a pile of garbage, causing the blaze to quickly spread throughout the area. Inmates were left trapped in their cells, and smoke and flames engulfed the block. Many suffered smoke inhalation and other injuries as a result. Nevada State Prison. This former prison started operation in 1862 and has been left abandoned since 2012. Located in Carson City, Nevada State Prison was known for its harsh conditions, numerous executions, and some of its infamous inmates. Prison's long history has this association with death and despair, and it's led a lot of people to believe it could be haunted. Numerous reports of paranormal activity have been documented by visitors and employees of the prison. Strange sounds, eerie voices, and unexplained footsteps have all been discussed, particularly in the cell blocks, the execution chamber. Visitors have also reported feeling a sense of unease or, being watched by mysterious eyes. And some have even claimed to have seen apparitions of former inmates or guards. One of the most famous ghosts believed to haunt the prison is that of a former inmate who was executed by hanging in the 19th century. Many visitors have also reported seeing his ghost in the execution chamber or hearing his disembodied voice. Other reported hauntings include a guard who was murdered by inmates in the 1950s. The prison's eerie reputation has drawn attention from a lot of ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts like Jack Baggins himself and his Ghost Adventures crew. Next up, we have the Old Essex County Jail. The Old Essex County Jail, located in Newark, New Jersey, was known for its harsh conditions and, again, brutal treatment of inmates. Today, many people believe that the jail is haunted by the spirits of those who died within the walls due to the extreme conditions and inhumane treatment of the former inmates. One of the main reasons why the Old Essex County Jail is considered haunted is the high number of deaths that occurred. The jail's overcrowded conditions, poor sanitation, and lack of medical care led to numerous outbreaks of disease, which claimed the lives of many inmates. Additionally, the jail was the site of several violent incidents. Trauma and, pain that happened within these walls, some say kind of left an imprint on the jail, leading to the supposed paranormal activity. And another factor that contributes to the possible haunting is the evidence of ghostly activity. If you want to call it evidence, it's people saying they've seen or heard things. Visitors and staff have reported hearing strange noises, whispers, all your classics. Some have even seen full-bodied apparitions, including the ghost of a former inmate who is said to have hung himself within his cell. Others have experienced sudden drops in temperature or seen unexplained orbs of light. I always find orbs kind of boring, but I don't know, that's just me. I want to see like a ghost, The point is, this site is now abandoned and technically prohibited, so enter at your own risk. The Missouri State Penitentiary. This former prison located in Jefferson City, Missouri, that was operational for 168 years. Prison was notorious for overcrowding, inhumane conditions, and it had a very violent history, with numerous riots and incidents of inmate abuse reported throughout its existence. Today, many people believe that the Missouri State Penitentiary is haunted, with paranormal activity reported by visitors and staff. One of the most reported ghostly sightings is that of a shadowy figure who is said to haunt the gas chamber where he was executed. Other reported sightings include the ghosts of course, former inmates and guards. As I said before, the prison has a long and violent history, with countless inmates suffering and dying over its 168 years of operation. The prison was also the site of, again, numerous executions, with over 40 prisoners being put to death in the gas chamber alone. Next up is a pretty big one. It's Fremantle Prison. Fremantle Prison is a former maximum security prison located in Fremantle, Western Australia. A lot of supposedly haunted prisons in Australia, oddly enough. There's a ton. The prison was operational from 1855 to 1991 and housed some of the country's most notorious criminals. The prison is now a popular tourist attraction, but back when it was operational, probably not a place you'd want to go. And even still, many people believe that the Fremantle prison is haunted, with numerous reports of ghostly sightings and unexplained phenomena. One of the most commonly reported ghostly sightings is that of a former inmate who was executed at the prison in 1844. Visitors have reported seeing his ghostly figure walking the prison's corridors in the middle of the night. Other reported paranormal activity includes the sound of footsteps, slamming doors, and unexplained noises coming from empty cells. Visitors have also reported feeling a sense, again, of unease or being touched by unseen hands while in certain areas of the prison. Next up, we have another Australian prison, the Old Melbourne Gaol. This former prison located in Melbourne, Australia, was operational from 1845 until 1924. The prison is famous for its grim history, with over 130 prisoners executed on the gallows during its operation. And today, the prison is open to the public as a museum, with guided tours offering visitors a glimpse into the lives of the prisoners who were incarcerated. But when it was operational as a prison. Again, you would have been warned never to go near it. It housed some of Australia's most notorious criminals and was known for its inhumane conditions. Big surprise, surprise. Prisoners' cells were tiny and overcrowded, with up to 4 inmates crammed into a single cell. The prisoners were forced to sleep on hard wooden planks without any bedding. Sanitation was almost non-existent too, with only a few communal toilets available for hundreds of prisoners. The cells were rarely cleaned, and inmates were often left to live in filth, which resulted in the spread of disease and infection. And in terms of punishment, you had solitary confinement, flogging, or even hanging for the most serious of crimes. The gallows at the prison saw the execution of over 130 prisoners, making it one of the most notorious places of execution in Australian history, which is also why it's said to be one of the most haunted prisoners in Australia. The Atlanta Prison Farm is a former correctional facility located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's known for its tough conditions and forced labor practices. Today, the prison is abandoned, and many people believe it to be haunted. One of the most commonly reported paranormal occurrences at the Atlanta Prison Farm is the apparition of a former prisoner who was killed during a failed escape attempt. Visitors are reported seeing the ghostly figure of a man running through the prison's corridors before disappearing into the thin air. Some visitors to the prison have reported feeling a sense of unease or being touched again by people that aren't really there. There have also been reports of mysterious, orbs of light. I'm not too enthused about that, but people are really obsessed with orbs. There's orb enthusiasts out there. Figures are also seen appearing in photographs taken inside the prison. Despite the supposed paranormal activity at the prison, the Atlanta Prison Farm remains a popular destination for ghost hunters and urban explorers looking to experience the, haunted history firsthand. I'd actually like to go. I'd check it. I've never been to an abandoned, supposedly haunted place before, but, no one wants to go. Anyone want to go with me? Let me know in the comments. Probably won't happen, but, Garcia Moreno Prison, located in Quito, Ecuador, was once home to some of the most notorious criminals in the country's history. It was also violent and overcrowded, not a place I would have ever wanted to visit. Today, Garcia Moreno is well known for its haunted reputation. Many visitors and locals believe that the abandoned prison is haunted by the spirits of former inmates who suffered and died there. Some of the most commonly reported paranormal activity includes strange, weird noises, voices are disembodied, and, just this eerie feeling of being watched. Visitors have also reported seeing ghostly figures and shadows moving throughout the prison, and the harsh living conditions, frequent outbreaks of violence, and numerous deaths that occurred within the prison are believed to have left a lingering presence of unrest and suffering. And it's interesting with this one too, because apparently it's abandoned, but a lot of the stuff the prisoners left behind are still there. It almost looks like people just suddenly disappeared. Despite being closed for several years, Garcia Moreno Prison continues to draw visitors who are interested in its macabre history and a chance to experience paranormal.
Coming in at number 10, we have the ghosts of Bally's Casino and the MGM fire. What is now Bally's Las Vegas used to be the MGM Grand when fire tore through the building in November 1980. Now, the incident today is the second worst disaster in Nevada history and the third worst hotel fire in modern US history. During the time of the fire, there were 5,000 people in the hotel and no sprinklers in place across a large part of the building. The fire started in the deli restaurant and tore through the second floor. 85 people died, the majority from smoke inhalation. 588 civilians, 25 employees, and 14 firefighters were injured. The hotel was brought up by Caesars Entertainment Corporation and turned into Bally's in 1986. Now, people that stayed at the hotel are convinced that they hear screaming or see ghostly apparitions walking through walls. Some employees have even reported seeing a group of ghosts who hang around together, which is kind of sweet. Coming in at number 9, Stephen Paddock was in a cult, or so local rumor has it. We can all agree that Stephen Paddock, the Las Vegas shooter, was a disturbed individual. However, some people are saying that he was part of a satanic cult. On October 1st, 2017, Stephen Paddock broke a window in his 32nd floor room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel and fired on a crowd enjoying Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Using a semi-automatic rifle, he fired 1,100 rounds rounds, killing 58 people and injuring a further 851. Now, according to a number of news publications, including the National Enquirer, Paddock was a prime target for a cult, which encouraged him to carry out the murdering spree. Dr. George Simon, a psychologist and author, said that Paddock's flaws, including his drinking and his gambling, made him easy pickings for a cult leader who was able to encourage him to do his bidding. Coming in at number 8, we have the classic rotting corpse under bed story. This is a very popular urban legend, appropriated to many hotels and local folklores all over the country, and indeed actually all over the world. It seems though that the original story can be traced back to Sin City itself. Basically, the story goes that a person checks into a hotel, kind of a budget hotel, you know, so they can save their cash for gambling. They check in, pop their bags down, and they have a rest. They even notice a faint smell, but they don't think anything of it. They go out for dinner, come back ready for bed, and the smell is even a bit worse. They're really tired and there's no one at the front desk, so they have to suck it up and go to bed. They wake up in the middle of the night and the stench this time is so bad, like really bad. They turn on the lights and check to find the source of the stink. They look everywhere, especially around the bed, as that is where it seems the strongest. Eventually, they decided to lift up the bed, and lo and behold, there is a festering corpse under there. That is around the time the knocking at the door starts. Freaked out, they climb out of their bedroom window, get into their car, leaving their stuff behind, and they hot-foot it out of there. Coming in at number 7, we have the Ghosts of Circus Circus. I just went to Vegas over Christmas, and I went into Circus Circus because of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I love that scene, you know, when they're on the carousel and they can't get off. It's a classic. Well, apparently, that moving bar on the merry-go-round isn't there anymore, which is really sad. Also not there anymore is room 123. Well, actually, the room still exists, it just has a different number, making it impossible to tell which room this homicide happened in. Oh yeah, homicide. A woman shot her son and then herself. Now, before the room was renovated, people would see the faint words "help me" written on the bathroom mirror. Cries for help can still be heard in the poker rooms, which are rumored to have been nearby. Some also claim that rooms 230 and 576 are haunted. Coming into number 6, we have the 4th grader ghost at Edwards Elementary School. Can you even imagine being brought up in Vegas? I feel like that would be absolutely insane. Like, what kind of human would you turn out to be? If you're brought up in Vegas, holler at me. Edwards Elementary School is located to the east of the city and has one student who has been in attendance for nearly 30 years. Students in grade 4 and teachers of the 4th grade have reported seeing a young girl dressed in white. She's often spotted in the computer room and in room 26, her old classroom. It seems that the young girl is a deceased student who once attended the school but died in 1990 when she was in the 4th grade. This is seemingly why only teachers of the 4th grade and 4th grade students can see her, but no other years can. We have another Vegas school haunting up next. This time we have a middle school. That's right, we have the janitor of Del H. Robinson. This is a very strange tale indeed and seems to affect only students who have moved to the school from outside of Nevada. Again, just east of the city, it's Del H. Robinson Junior High. It's not too far from Edwards Elementary, so this actually means in theory a person could have been to both haunted schools if they were unlucky. Or they just loved ghosts. The ghost at Del H is nothing like the benevolent child at Edwards though. The ghost here is of a janitor who's seen walking the halls with bloody hands. Again, seemingly only kids from out of state experience this ghostly apparition, which is so strange. Some new arrivals also report seeing him in their dreams after enrolling at the school. Stranger still, according to local legend, he disappears from sight and mind as soon as the pupils start going to church. Right, sure. Is it a big ploy? Coming into number 4, we have La Palazza Mansion Demonic Hauntings. La Palazza Mansion is located at 1700 Banny Avenue in Las Vegas, just up north from the main strip. Despite being prime real estate, the house has laid empty for a number of years. The property was purportedly owned by mobsters. Now, these days the mansion is said to be not just a little haunted, but very haunted. The previous owner thought that he had bought his dream home but was freaked out when bad things started happening there. In the end, he decided to challenge the poltergeist, demanding it leave. Now, things didn't go well. The man was then nearly choked to death as an invisible entity grabbed him by the neck. His friends managed to pull him away. Now, it seems the mobster former tenants had some unfinished business left in the house. The house was featured on Ghost Adventures in 2010. Also, I found a website where members of the public can leave comments, and a number of people living in the area said that they visited the house either as a potential buyer or just just a trespasser who'd heard the urban legends. Now all agree that the house felt very, very odd and very cold despite the 100-degree weather outside. Coming in at number 3, could UFOs be bopping on over from Area 51 to the outskirts of Vegas? Find out more at number 3. So Joshua Warren, a paranormal investigator, claims that there is a time warp outside of Las Vegas. Warren said that the warp occurs between the I-15 and Route 93. He measured this with a differential time rate meter, a device used by UFO experts that detects bends in the time-space continuum. That's basically bends in the laws of physics that we know our Earth usually observes. Now the discrepancy in time measurement has led to paranormalists suggesting that there is a wormhole or black hole in the area, so, you know, watch out. And also with Area 51 just basically up the road, who even knows what's really going on? Coming into number 2, we have the bodies of the Hoover Dam. Apparently these bodies are encased in cement, which is terrifying. I visited the Hoover Dam on my way to Vegas over Christmas. Now the Hoover Dam sits on the Colorado River and divides Arizona and Nevada. Crossing this river is pretty much the gateway to Vegas, and the water from the dam provides millions of Americans with clean water, especially those living in Las Vegas. Nonetheless, the dam has a dark history and is often referred to as the Hoover Damned or the Tomb of the Damned. Built in the Depression era of the United States, the official number of people who died whilst building the dam is 96, although many more were thought to have perished. That's the fact, but the urban legend says that the majority of these people are encased in the concrete walls of the dam itself. Supposedly, the mixer couldn't stop pouring concrete as it would mean a structural issue with the end result. So basically, bodies were just covered up over and over to make part of the vast wall today. This is probably just an urban legend, but a lot of people did sacrifice their lives for the structure. Some even say their lost souls can be seen walking across the bridge between states at night. Finally, coming into number 1, I love me a good spooky curse. We have the much famed Egyptian curse of the Luxor Hotel. Never mess with the ancient Egyptians. The Luxor Hotel is an Egyptian-themed hotel on the Vegas Strip, but it seems like the old gods aren't that on board with it. The Luxor has had a very consistently high death rate over the years since it opened in 1993, as well as a string of misfortune that's followed. Some say 7 people died whilst building the vast hotel, and some of them were seen in boats on the replica River Nile that meandered through the lobby. It's recently been filled in. In 1996, a woman jumped from the 26th floor of the building and now is said to haunt that floor. Now another man died when he drunkenly fell from the 10th floor into the lobby. A hand bomb went off in the parking garage in 2007, killing an employee. In 2010, a UNLV football player dropped dead following a fight. In 2012, a casino employee was murdered by her boyfriend in the lobby. Again, 2012 was a bad year for the hotel's rep as 3 guests caught Legionnaire's disease, with further cases reported in 2017. One of the guests even died as a result. All in all, it is rumoured that this hotel is cursed. Why? Well, they didn't appease the old gods when building the site, especially in the placement of the Sphinx, which is facing east rather than west. Also, when they built the pyramid, they didn't put an eye on the top. Now, this apparently is mandatory in all pyramid buildings.